Additional aids and services are available to individuals with disabilities. To make such a request, please contact us by email, by clicking the Help tab in the PD portal, or at pdportal@tamu.edu, by phone, including Relay Texas at 1-800-441-7323, or in writing to Train PD, PD Portal Support, 4477 TAMU, College Station, Texas 77843. Both a transcript and accessible document of the content presented in this webinar can be found as resources in the course description. Click on the blue links under Course Resources in the description. When a link is clicked, a new browser window will open.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Riggs. I'm a technical advisor for World Education, and we're super excited to chat with you about digital navigation. I come from a TESOL background, teaching English to speakers of other languages in adult ed. So I have in-classroom experience and now a lot of PD experience as well with teaching digital skills and the concepts of digital inclusion.
My name is Catalina Gonzalez. For those of you that don't know me, Rachel and I have been working together in digital navigation for a while now. I was part of the team that put together the digital navigation playbook a couple of years back. So again, as Rachel said, and just to reiterate that, we are super excited to be sharing with you today what we have been learning over the years, especially through the pandemic. So we have some big goals for today, and our agenda is packed full. So the goals for today, number one, is to develop shared language and understanding around the purpose and role of a digital navigator. Our second goal is to draw parallels between what teachers already do with learners and what digital navigation is. And finally, identify a goal and connected resource opportunities that you can incorporate in your practice.
A few key terms. The first one is digital divide. What is the digital divide? It's been referred to as the space between the haves and have-nots. I don't really like that language, so I changed it to the space between those who are connected to a very digital society and those who do not have access to that same connection. What is digital literacy? Digital literacy is the ability to use cognitive and technical skills to perform a myriad of tasks using technology. So really the basics, the foundation of digital navigation. Digital equity is the process of providing services and resources to overcome barriers and ensure access. So when we're talking about digital equity, we're thinking about any starting point where someone is and giving them the resources and services that they need to engage digitally. Digital resilience is confidence and ease, and resilience is all about that same confidence and ease as the landscape of technology changes, which it does constantly. So adapting to the ever-changing landscape of technology. And then finally, one that we'll use a lot in our session today is digital inclusion, which are the activities necessary to ensure access for all. And we are going to be structuring our presentation today around what those activities of digital inclusion are.
Let's talk about why digital navigation is important and the data behind it. So this is exactly what we saw during the pandemic. If you remember, everybody that was disconnected was really struggling to find access to resources, access to healthcare, access to education, or to be able to work, and also their financial well-being was at risk. In the slide that you are seeing, you can see how the digital divide directly linked to other forms of inequity. So applying for jobs, using basic operations and software at work, using technology for continuous learning, working online, participating in children's education, participating in their own education, engaging in civic issues online, access to resources. All these elements, these aspects of the daily life of people are affected by the digital divide. I mentioned earlier that the digital divide intersects with other forms of inequity. And so here in this slide, for example, you will see that by race, Hispanic adults are more likely to be disconnected. You will see the percentages there on the right-hand side. In the next slide, you will see that income is also a variable. Low income means the people that are more likely to be disconnected or be subscription vulnerable. And subscription vulnerable is a term that a lot of people have been using these days to talk about, yes, you may be able to be connected 1 month, but you may not be able to be connected long term. So low income means that people are more vulnerable. There is also a fact that big screen device ownership matters. So mobile only use tends to reach populations with lower education and lower income. And we also know that the combination of both computers and mobiles is what leads to more diverse type of internet use. So if a person has phones and also big screen devices, then they are more active in the online space. So it's important to take that into consideration. You will see also that there are differences here in terms of like access to work. So you are looking here in the slide at the red and orange percentages. 33% of Black workers have limited digital skills. 17% have no digital skills. So if we add those together, 50% of Black workers have no or limited digital skills. Similarly for Latino workers, 57% of Latino workers have no or have low digital skills. 37% for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Most workers with digital skill gaps have a high school education or less. So these are our students in adult education classrooms. Most workers with digital skill gaps have a high school education or less. 80% of learners with high school diplomas or less also lack digital skills and have limited abilities. And last but not least, some information about immigrants. Unfortunately, comprehensive data on immigrants' digital skills is sorely lacking, but foreign-born residents who speak a language other than English are more likely to have low digital skills and are more likely to be smartphone dependent. Is this true or false? 1/6 of Americans aren't comfortable using technology to learn. The answer is actually, yes, it's actually false. 50% of Americans aren't comfortable using technology. 1 out of 2 Americans. Is this true or false? 1/4 of those who cannot use a computer are 16 to 34 years old. It's actually true. 1/4 of those who cannot use a computer are 16 to 34 years old. So again, these are the learners in our classroom. Finally, one more question for you. Is this true or is it false? 1/8 of middle-skill jobs require digital skills. And just so you know, middle-skill jobs are defined as jobs that generally require some training beyond high school, but less than a bachelor's degree. This one is true. As we continue to move into the digital world, more and more jobs will require digital skills.
24.6% of Texas households do not have a desktop or a laptop. So we're talking about 1/4 of the households in Texas don't have one of those big screen devices.
43.5% of Texas households that are making less than $20,000 are without broadband subscription. 18.1% of Texas residents are without broadband subscription of any type.
Today, what we'll be talking about is we're going to really frame our conversation around what we call the 3 pillars of digital inclusion. And these are reflective of the same statistics that Catalina was sharing about Texas residents and about our nation as a whole. The first one is connectivity or internet access. So it's the ability of someone to connect to broadband and use the internet. The second one is equipment or device options. And so here we're talking about access to, yes, mobile phones. Those are pretty ubiquitous, but also those large screen devices that we know enable users to do a lot more and to plug into the digital community more. And then finally, we'll talk about digital skills, the skills that learners need to thrive in their lives, with their families, in the workplace, in educational environments, and so forth. So that's what we'll be sharing today and talking about your role as a digital navigator in the context of these three pillars and what you can do to support learners.
The digital navigation model, the term in itself is not something necessarily new, right? It has been used for career navigation, for success ambassadors. In other contexts, we have used the term navigators. And currently, digital navigators the term is also being applied to telehealth, to tax and bill paying, to access to community resources and services, and to the Affordable Connectivity Program, which we will talk a little bit more in a minute. So again, this term is not necessarily new. It has already been used in the field in different ways. But what we mean when we say digital navigator, to be more specific and to ensure that we are all sharing the same language and understanding the term consistently, we mean that there is a person that helps a learner or a learner worker virtually or in drop-in locations. So this can be via Zoom or in the classroom or in your program, that's the drop-in location, to secure affordable internet access and or devices and guidance on how to use them to fulfill their goals, right? So the three legs of the stool that Rachel mentioned earlier and that we just play with, connectivity, devices, and skills. These three elements are the elements that a digital navigator is able to support learner workers get access to.
We're going to move now. We hear how you guys are already digital navigators. We've talked about the data in those three areas. And now we're going to move into some strategies and resources to help you lean into your role as a digital navigator. I really want you to be thinking about, what is my goal? So keep your ears perked up for an action item for yourself. I could be doing more of this, or I could use this resource to help me more in my practice. Think about what you'll take away from this. It won't be everything because there's so much, but it could be one or two really strong things to help you grow into your role as a digital navigator. Before we get into the resources that we have, we wanted to really emphasize that being a digital navigator means navigating systems that could be at the local or national level. We'll be sharing a lot of both, but we also want to highlight that there will be resources and services in your community. So you could talk to other teachers and check out what local services you have available to you and your learners. There will be resources and services through your program. So having a conversation and being aware of what your program offers and talking to your administration to see what resources are available for learners will be important. There are resources and services at the state level. So are you involved with your state and what's going on in your state? Are you following state associations and organizations? And then finally, there will be resources and services at the national level. Are you tapped into what's going on within our country when it comes to digital navigation? So these are just some ideas of where you can engage with it at a smaller, tighter, localized way, or in even a broader way.
This is what many are calling a historic moment. There is a lot of money being invested in the broadband infrastructure of the country. So some generations have invested in roads or sanitation. A lot of people are talking about this investment from the federal government in broadband infrastructure as a historic moment. Texas just received in December 2022, $8.1 million for the Internet for All planning grants. And the money is coming in two buckets. One big bucket of money is coming for the infrastructure itself, the cables that we see underground or in the air, and the towers to connect people, all that infrastructure piece, the actual hard pieces. And then $3+ million is coming for digital equity activities. And these digital equity activities include the activities that you are doing with your learners in the classroom. So it's very important for all of us in the adult education community to not only be aware of this, but to continue to advocate from wherever we are to ensure that the funding that is coming from the federal government is actually impacting the communities and our learners in the way that we know is needed. So just keep an eye on this, putting a bug in your ear about this funding that's coming to your state.
And I just want to emphasize too that as teachers, that means opportunities are coming your way to help you lean into this role as a digital navigator. So this money is big, it's across the nation and all of that, but it will have, I think, very real implications for what it means to be an adult educator and the kinds of opportunities we have as adult educators.
Okay, so Rachel said earlier that this is going to go very fast. So it's going to go very fast. We're going to put a lot of information out there. Again, don't worry, you have it on the Padlet, relax. Just listen and take it all in. Take mental notes about what you can do more or need to include into your classrooms, as Rachel said. Connectivity. So what can you do to support learners that need access to the internet? The first resource that you need to know about is the Affordable Connectivity Program. This Affordable Connectivity Program had a different name at the beginning of the pandemic, but basically it's a subsidy so that people can access the internet at a low cost and high quality. So know that the Affordable Connectivity Program exists. They can also get discounts for devices and also for internet. If the Affordable Connectivity Plan doesn't work for your learners, these are other options for you. Number one is the Wi-Fi map. So this map allows you to enter a zip code and it will tell you where in that zip code there is connectivity available. Broadband Now is another great resource. It can actually help you map how fast is your speed and your connectivity, and it can also help you understand how much connectivity or Wi-Fi power do you need. If you're in a household with one device or with 4 devices, you may have different needs. So Broadband Now can help you with that. The Texas Library, surprise, amazing resource. The Texas Library is a great resource. Partner with your local library.
Our libraries are as diverse as our communities in Texas, so each one might be offering different kinds of resources to support your digital navigation efforts.
Cindy, thank you so much. Yes, so again, the library is a huge resource in your community. As Cindy was saying, some may have computer lending or device lending services. Others may have access to digital skills, content that you may want to use or repurpose in your classroom. And finally, Digital Us. Digital Us is part of World Education and it's a coalition of organizations working on the digital divide. The Digital Us Resource Hub also has lots of information for you to support your learners in accessing connectivity opportunities. We're going to move into devices. When we think about devices, we either think like, do you have a phone or do you have a computer? But we know that it may be a little bit more nuanced than that. If somebody has some learning disabilities, or if this student that we have has a child with accessibility needs, having information about how accessibility tools can be very helpful to them. So you can think about devices in a more holistic way. Where do you go for devices? One of the most difficult things, they're expensive. They also get damaged easily. And then what do you do? So here are some resources. Number one, the place to go right now in your community is Compudot. Texas is already partnering with them. So please look at the website and see what resources are available for learners in your community. Everyone On and Pieces for People are also 2 big resources, and they provide computers for individuals. Digitunity is more for organizations. So this could be more an opportunity for your program, for example, to partner with them and see what refurbishers are working in your community that can provide refurbished computers to your program. And then AdultEdMed, I want to emphasize this again. Many of our adult learners may have disabilities or may have family members that are dealing with disabilities. AdultEdMed provides information about resources available for accessibility. And last but not least, resource in the middle, the AFTRR is also a great resource, also more for programs perhaps, because it's about refurbishers and recyclers. So organizations sometimes or governments may partner with agencies like this to retire their equipment, and then the organizations refurbish and bring them back to the community. So opportunities there, not only for the individuals in your classroom, for your learners per se, but also perhaps for your program.
An important digital skill is shopping online. Another important one is purchasing tech devices. So think about ways, rather than just sending learners to these different websites, what is a way that you could actually take a website like PCs for People and make that part of your lesson, right? If you're teaching about the community, if you're teaching language around shopping, there are a lot of different ways that you could actually integrate these resources. You guys are creative teachers. So think about, how can I take these different things and actually plug them into my instruction, make them a part of what we're already doing in the classroom. Let's get into digital skills and how you can support that. We've talked about connectivity and devices. Teaching digital skills can also be a way, it can kind of feed back into helping learners get connected and obtain devices, right? So teaching them the skill of connecting to free Wi-Fi or hotspots that are in their area, teaching them the skill of shopping online. Those are things that actually support those other two pillars as well. So let's talk a little bit about digital skills. There are a few components of building digital skills and resilience. I'm always going to throw resilience in there because we can teach the skill, but learners need to know how to use that skill in so many different contexts across so many different devices. So it's really important to also think about the transferability of the skill. So building digital skills and resilience breaks down into, I think, 4 key activities for a teacher, right? There's the assessment, the planning, development of the skills, or kind of the execution of your instruction, and finally, the ongoing support, right? So the assessment at the beginning, putting all that information into our planning, executing it in the classroom through development of skills, and then support that is threaded throughout the entire process. So let's talk first about assessment. What I want you guys to keep in mind, I have these little targets at the top of each slide because I will be sharing resources, but I think the strategies that underlie or help us use the resources are almost more important. So when we talk about assessing digital skills and setting goals, I think the most important thing to focus on when it comes to assessment, we're kind of used to looking for gaps, right? What do learners not know that we can teach them? With digital skills, I think it's just as important to look at the existing skills that we can build off of, because usually learners will have skills or applications that they're comfortable using. And that's a great starting point for us to then build on top of. And then also, of course, considering the goals and aligning our planning with their goals. So how can we do this with digital skills? First, use the established assessment tools in your state to identify the skills that your learners know and that you can build off of. Those are North Star and Essential Education's Computer Essentials. You statewide in Texas have access to those 2 tools. So those are great resources for you. But then there's always that teacher-made piece of it, right? We always kind of want to put our own twist on things or make sure it's like really tailored to our class. So I encourage you also to develop your own tools to get a sense for the landscape of your class and align skills to your instructions. So you could use something like Google Forms or JotForm to do that. So after we kind of know what we're building on, right, and then the goals that we have, where we want to end up, we have to put those pieces together. And we want to utilize the big picture and the individual motivation. When I say big picture, I'm talking about zooming out and all of the digital skills that are utilized, which it can be almost hard to, as an individual, think about all of the skills that I use in a day, let alone all of the skills that are important. So that's where frameworks come in. And then with individual motivation, that's where the learner's input comes in. So I encourage, as you're planning, to look at digital skills frameworks. These will give you the big picture. What are all the digital skills that are needed for learner workers today? 2 frameworks that I recommend referring to are the Seattle Digital Equity Initiative framework. That is an aggregate framework, which means that it pulls from other curricula and assessments and other frameworks and puts them all together in one framework. So that way it can be an easy crosswalk to any other digital skills materials that you might be using, including North Star. They have their own standards, which were considered in the development of the Seattle framework, but you could also just look at the North Star standards because you have that assessment tool. So it'll be an easy through line for you to use the assessment tool, look at the standards to plan your instruction, and then use the curriculum to teach, right? That's a great, great resource that you have available to you, North Star. So you want to look at a framework when you're planning, and of course you want it to be learner driven. I have developed an approach called the Digital Literacy Action Plan, in which I actually have learners map out their digital literacy goals, the materials that they'll use to reach those goals, and the steps that they'll take. I don't recommend using this with beginner English language learners, but it is suitable for intermediate to advanced or your ABE, ASE classes. It's just something that's very learner driven. So if you find yourself in a class with such diverse needs and skills, you might want to use something more individualized like that. Then we get to the execution of developing those skills. And here we want to think about, what is my approach and what materials can I use? So the approach is really important and something that you should keep at the forefront, right? To then be able to plan what materials you're going to pull into your approach. There are several strategies for teaching digital skills. Some of the highlights are contextualization, right? So plugging digital skills into the context of what else you're teaching and integrating those things. So a good example of that is if I'm teaching an English class, right, and I'm teaching them how to use formal versus informal language, we could do that within the context of text versus email, right? So that's just kind of a simple way of putting digital skills right next to other things that you're already teaching. And then choice and relevance, contextualization and integration kind of go together. They're not the same, but they go together in that sense. Choice and relevance, making sure that learners are able to choose what they want to learn and it's relevant to their goals. Strengths-based, like I said, building off of the skills that they have. And of course, differentiated, because they will come with so many different skills and needs. Some materials that you could check out. The first one is called the EdTech Integration Strategy Toolkit. What I like about this is that it shows you how to build instructional routines that also develop digital skills. So you can go into the toolkit, find a part of your lesson, right? Like communicate. And then from there, find a routine that you could use in your class regularly. And in that routine, you'll see what digital skills are included in it. So it's kind of a way to integrate the use of technology, digital skills, and then the actual content of your class. The Digital Skills Library is a library that's great for explicit instruction of digital skills. It has articles and videos that align with different digital skills, like creating documents, communicating, and all of those great things. So definitely explore that. And then finally, Skillbox is just a way to pull things together. If you go into Skillbox, you can grab different free digital skills, articles, videos, and all of that good stuff, and then put it in a collection and share it with learners. So that's a free tool that just helps with the delivery. Like I said before, definitely leverage North Star and Essential Education Computer Essentials. These are great free curricula that have been purchased for Texas. And if you have questions or aren't already using these things or need training with these things, you can talk to your distance learning lead to get more details about what's available to you. Finally is the support, the ongoing support I was talking about. And here I want to say to you, you can give support to your learners. You already do. I know that. But also, don't be afraid to receive support and get support for yourself when it comes to technology. It's not like this is all stuff that we've all mastered, right? It's stuff that we're learning alongside the students in our class. Tech support, you guys have the call center available to you, which is an incredible statewide resource. You can join on Zoom, you can email or call the call center and get support for learners, right? If learners are stuck, they can call, or teachers. So if you're struggling with any kind of technology and need some tech support, definitely go to your call center. And then, of course, engaging in professional development will help you in this area. So there's Texas PD that your state offers. And from World Ed, we have our EdTech strategy sessions. We talk a lot about digital equity and digital navigation in those webinars. Those happen once a month.
Thank you, Rachel and Catalina. This was a fantastic session.
We hope you enjoyed this pre-recorded webinar. After you have passed the final test with a score of 80% or greater and have received your certificate of completion, please take a few moments to complete the course evaluation. Participant feedback helps Train PD at TCAL continue to provide high-quality professional development. To leave a course feedback, please go to the completed portion of your transcript. To do this, hover over the My Learning tab and select View Your Transcript. Click on the drop-down arrow next to the word Active and select Completed. Then, click Evaluate in the drop-down menu next to the course you just completed. Please note that your feedback is greatly appreciated.